On Older Guy's VRX First Love review, Kodansha's vertical imprint is becoming known for bringing variety into the manga market. The same way the company did before Kodansha reduced them down to simply being a label. Most recently, the imprint has been home to manga by Shoujo Oshimi and works that focus on the hardship of life like Sensei's Pio's life. But today, we're here to look at something quite different. Another Guy's VRX First Love. The story follows Naoki, a 40-year-old man who enjoys spending his days in a VR world playing and his cute female avatar. One day, while minding his own business, he's approached by a player called Hunami, who's using a scantily dressed female avatar and chasing after Naoki without even introducing themselves. Much to Naoki's relief, he quickly discovers that Hunami is simply a newbie to the world of VR, has no idea how to control their character properly, nor has a microphone to speak to Naoki properly. After Honami shows appreciation for the area in which Naoki likes to spend his time, our protagonist decides that he might not be so bad, teaching Honami how this world works and showing them around before it sadly gets closed down due to the low numbers of people visiting. As the two meet up day after day, they become at first friends and their lovers, despite having never met in reality. But the changes when Honami suddenly reveals that he no longer be able to visit the VR world due to needing to undergo a surgery. Naoki is obviously heartbroken about this but is determined not to let this be the end of their relationship and searches for Honami in the real world. In the afterword for this volume, mangaka Violence Tomoko admits the point where Naoki and Honami met in real life is where the story originally ended, but when putting the final book together, they added a part 2. Part 1 ends with chapter 5, which means part 2 is a sizable portion of the book containing a further 8 chapters. Part 2 sees spent more time in the real world and also switches focus on Honami's grandson, Aoi. With a long weekend coming up, Aoi's mother encourages him to go and visit Honami, but upon arrival, he meets Naoki and is surprised to find what kind of relationship Naoki and Honami have. If there's one thing that can be said about An Older Guy's VR First Love, is that this manga is a story about love, the transgenders, a game our main characters all play as female avatars and do not know or care what gender their companion happens to be in real life. Even after Naoki and Honami to meet in the real world. Then it is concerned about the fact that they're both guys, which is refreshing. And also nice they have this contrast between the VR world and the real world. With the introduction of Aoi, the story begins to deal with the fact both Naoki and Honami are comfortable in a relationship but worried about how coming out as gay will affect their working and family relationships. The downside of Violence Tomoko having chosen to add part 2 after the original story ended is that they feel disconnected from the first half, even while naturally carrying on the same tale. Maybe that is also because of introducing us to a new character so far into the narrative. But I think the root of the problem is that the first half was largely a happy-go-lucky story, while the second half is more melancholy. They just don't go together very well, and I almost wish this had been two separate volumes, since a definite break between them will have helped. It's not helped by the fact that the artwork is much more so to the virtual world setting that it is real to real life. Violence Tomoko tends to use a lot of shading and has tick lines, which works for the more stereotypical video game designs of the two female avatars that look strange away from that setting. As previously mentioned, An Older Guy's VR First Love comes to the West thanks to Kodansha via the vertical imprint. It has been translated by David Mosto. The translation reads well, no issues to note. This release includes a color page, which is always nice to see. And I think the mangaka's work really pops in color as opposed to black and white. Overall, like many vertical titles, as of later, An Older Guy's VR First Love is a mixed bag. The second half feels disconnected from the first half, which I think a lot of readers will struggle with. But I do like the messages the author is trying to convey in this weird to find LGBT plus series with older people. So if you're looking for something like that, it certainly fits the bill. A free preview can be read on Kodansha's website here. 7 out of 10.